Beautiful. It's getting a little bit buggy though.
See you guys. Yeah, I wasn't myself.
We're shooting
Yeah.
next Friday.
The restaurant.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, we'll just keep acting like that's the day until something pushes it off.
Whatever we do with it.
We're creating our communications as that's what's gonna happen. And as soon as everybody says it's good, those will start going out.
Good.
Oh, there's anticipation. That's been filmed.
But we have to stuff.
Huh?
Get anybody to spend the night. It's 100%. Right. Is there's no recognizable names.
I mean, it's like.
A place you want.
Peanut butter, right?
Yeah, that's peanut
Oh, no,
butter.
I
A lot of our old.
I was in
homes,
play.
Or,
Intensely
you
about
know,
how we're gonna do this,
motels
what's
are
gonna.
just long term
I
now.
want to
You know,
know
it's
when the
just
money
junk.
maker.
Yeah.
The only item,
Until we
Do they
get.
pay?
So they don't pay, but they can.
How do you have that?
Recognizable.
They'll have, anybody's got a 5,000.
People forget shit all the time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, those things are good ideas,
Then we'll
but
talk some
the reason
bigger
it's good is
money
that if you have already
because
parked
they'll
your
actually
car,
come
you've
up
already
and
paid
spend
for
it
it,
on
you've already done your ride, I think you've already
They spend about
I mean, to me, it's
The
just gonna
people
save on
Yeah.
parking down. I think it's a good idea.
It's a big
I'm all for
difference,
four
you
brake
know,
racks.
Well,
captive
that's what I know,
audience,
like,
you
how's it
know,
going
captive
with
wallets and
Argo
purses,
and
and
what
it
they're
usually
doing as
equates
far as
to,
the building
you know,
area.
multiple
Down there.
meals and
Gondola
lots and lots of
pylons,
time to shop.
like,
you know.
Everybody's tearing the ground up,
Yes.
having all this information plan.
Well, I don't know where
That's
the
why
biker live, it's still.
I better welcome everybody.
Boulevard or biking.
Let's see, I got a form.
I know they are there, that's my.
It's
Well, I would like to,
I
thank everybody for coming. Gonna start us off on time here at 5:30. We've got a pretty big, work, session, to be honest. There probably are more items on here than we could get to, but we're sure gonna try. Again, welcome to the June 9th, 2025, work session. Several items on here, but we're gonna kick it off with a mobility hub update. And thank you very much for coming up. Wasn't expecting to have both of you in person, but it's a treat. Thank you.
Oh, it's always nice to come up here, so thank you. Yeah, and we were asked to provide an update, so some of this information you may know, and just to bring everybody up to speed. And while Charlie pulls up this presentation. Charlie, did it come up? Okay. Thank you. And yeah, we'll try to get this through this as quickly as possible and just cover just a refresher on the program elements, the schedule, and update on that, and talk a little bit about the funding scenarios and really the next steps. So with that, just as a refresher, most people have seen this. There are 6 different elements to what we're calling the entire program. The roundabout at 240, the mobility hub itself, the parking structure, along with improved parking lot to help increase some of that, the parking count, the Idaho Mall itself, and the Minor Street improvements for downtown. So with that, this is there's a lot of information here. I think the big takeaways is where we are today and where we're headed. So the current funding, as you recall, the RAISE planning grant was awarded, and the intent of that grant was to get us through 60% design and all of the environmental clearances. So this is what this represents with preliminary, sort of the 30% and the 60% through Q3 of next year. Obviously, we recognize that it's really important that we do a lot of community and stakeholder engagement. So Charlie and Cheney have launched a lot of that. So those conversations, presenting to the businesses, having some one-on-one meetings, really trying to hear what they are concerned about and incorporating that before we get too far into the design process. And then the environmental, the NEPA part of it, we're doing sort of the existing conditions analysis, and then we'll move on to just really analysis of all the impacts when we get further into our design. But good news is that we've done all of the surveying right away, so we're designing on real world topographic survey. The geotech stuff that would support the design of the parking garage and some other elements have been completed. We're getting ready. This is a big step for the project, is to meet with the historic societies and the State Historic Preservation Office, because they're going to have a big say about what our alternatives are, especially when it comes to that parking structure in the Roberts Brothers building. in addition to view sheds and what downtown can look like, they will have strong opinions about that. So here, and our goal is just to hear them early. So again, they feel like they're engaged early and we can incorporate their concerns into the design. Meeting with property owners and businesses, I think there are some specific things that have come up, like the gas station and how does that roundabout affect the gas station. So we're starting to have those conversations too. And any day now, we hope to hear about the raise capital grant in which we put in the application. It was due in January. We're supposed to hear about that here shortly. And we'll get into that conversation with the funding part of this presentation. But again, we're advancing the entire design to about 15% in July. All of those 6 components were sort of in different pieces and parts of the design stage. So we're just trying to bring them all together and just have sort of the same landing site for all of them by July. And then we also know that there's a pop-up event, which we will provide more information at that time. So a reminder for some is the program funding. The overall program cost for those 6 elements, we estimated at about $37 million. We've secured the race planning grant that is funding the 60% design, the NEPA, and the administration. And then we also have the actual mobility hub construction in which CDOT came to the table with the $6.3 million and the city has come in with that match. So we know that between those things, those are the secured funding components of it. And just a little bit about the scenario planning. There's a couple of scenarios here. One is this month, hopefully we hear really good news and we're awarded the capital grant, which we asked for about $25 million. And that would fund the final design and construction of the whole program when you bring in the CDOT money and you bring in the city's money. If we're not awarded the build capital grant, there's a couple of scenarios, and we'll get into that a little bit, is that we could go again for the raise capital grant in January of 2026, in which we would hear in June of 2026, or we could look at an alternative of advancing the parking structure and the mobility hub, because we also know that is something that this community has been waiting for a while. So diving a little bit deeper into that, because of the NEPA process and the strings that sort of come attached with some of these dollars, whether it's CDOT dollars or whether it's federal dollars, we could apply for the raised capital grant, but it obviously would delay the overall implementation and building of a parking structure. But you would have a chance to build the entire program. Bless you. But if you determine an alternate path, we could also look at, again, if we're not awarded it, we could look at just, again, advancing just the parking structure and the mobility hub, or we could pursue other funding opportunities. So there are other opportunities out there. I think the big question for the city to keep in mind is none of it's guaranteed. And at some point we might have to hedge our bets and say, let's continue to go for this to try to get the whole mobility hub program together and downtown and everything else. Or is it at really becoming really important to the community to just move forward with the structure? So the key to the $13 million that you all have secured between the city dollars and the CDOT dollars is that you have to use those dollars for a match for some of these bigger grants. So if you choose to move forward at some point to build the mobility hub and the parking structure, you will no longer have that pot of money to leverage necessarily for future federal grants. So there's a risk proposition in there. It doesn't have to be decided today or by any means, but I just wanted to provide some information and context around that. So really the next steps is Charlie will be presenting to the Business and Community Promotion Board next week. And then we started talking with CDOT because they are coming to the table with some money for the mobility hub. We've been talking there with them for many years now. There's an MOU in place with CDOT. So just continuing that partnership. Again, as I mentioned, we'll have design, 15% design in July, and then the pop-up party in August, in which we will have more information to share with the community. So I know that was a lot of information in a really short time, and I don't know if you all have specific questions of where we are.
Thank you. Questions for HDR?
Just if we did go forward with just the structure at this time, what do you think the cost would be on that?
The structure itself, we had estimated at about that $13 million, which fits the CDOT plus the city funding. There's a little bit tricky in there because CDOT has told us they are not in the business of building parking structures.
They have said that
Mm-hmm.
several times.
So I think I've shared with the mayor that we will have to work closely with them because the mobility hub itself will not cost $13 million.
Right.
So there's gonna have to be a lot of conversation with CDOT to let us use that money for the structure.
I gotcha.
And when we find out about this grant in June, is that, I guess, then we have to make a decision, I guess, at that point, whether we know we have it or not about.
And
Waiting to apply.
you know, Janina, and not to split hairs, but you know, in a perfect world, we could make the decision, but nobody really is forcing our feet to the fire. And that's why it was, an alternative is we could also apply in January 2026 for the raised grant again. But admittedly, you know, it takes another 11 months, right? We'd be into, you know, like June next year, maybe 13 months, July next year. So, but I do think that it's kind of an important point because, you know, once we spend that money, say, we would not have money for a match. Yeah, so what that would do is, you know, as was said at the beginning of this, it's about $40 million because we got about a $2.4 million raised grant, you know, for the planning. And this construction is like about $37 million, but it incorporates a lot more than a parking garage, right? So that is the complete redo of downtown that Cheney has done a really good job with her graphics, explaining to the public and to us what that would look like and entail. So there definitely is nowhere near the money to do all of that. It would just be a plan B where we could still, you know, have a parking structure, which, you know, should be a real shot in the arm for sales tax because most of our businesses still have capacity, but we don't have parking capacity. So, you know, you run out of spaces before you run out of tables, for example, at a restaurant. Any further questions for HDR?
I'd add on what Kate's question was. I'm sorry, I was a little late. I got a lot going on, but I'll catch up on some of this later. If we're gonna do something, we can't have, oh, it's about what that's gonna cost us.
It's not gonna
We
be like
have
that forever.
Nail that down. I don't know how CDOT got their figure. They gotta come up with it some way. They're not throwing a dartboard. So they came up with that somehow. We just need to determine, is that pretty close? Is that what, you know, are we guessing that's the cost? But
Well,
there's gotta be some way that we could get some kind of price nailed down that's close to what we're gonna be
and
spending.
you see, we're shooting for 15% design and engineering by July. So I would just suggest as we get closer, we'll have a finer idea.
Number.
And is that a safe statement?
That is correct.
Fair statement. I
The
should say.
more engineering and design, you definitely can get the number closer.
Yeah, and you know what bugs, I think, all of us is every single time we go out to bid, it's more, right? I mean, how many examples have we seen recently? It's a little daunting. But you're right, Scott, we definitely can get a lot closer.
Well, that will also give us the ability, we should know by the time the 15% is due. That'll let us know, do we have a grant or do we not have that grant,
Sure.
the raise grant? And then what do we have? Do we have to just table it and have the raise grant again? Or do we go forth with the?
Right.
And my
yeah.
concern would be, what do you think the community is more in favor of? You know, I have my own opinion, but it's not really my opinion. It's what does our community really think that we want?
And frankly, I think some businesses are more than a little burned out. They were hoping for a parking structure even a couple of years ago.
You know, there were other plans to do the parking structure
There
and they
were.
didn't like those,
There
so
were.
we had to
And-
reevaluate.
And, you know, to be fair, had we moved forward, when we were talking about the special assessment, I would suggest to you, we would have had that built years ago and it would have been done for less than half.
Yep.
But I understand how unfair, many people felt that it was. And I don't think anyone on council wanted to be known as the group that forced it down your throat, whether you liked it or not.
No, I'm just saying, we had a plan in place.
Yeah, we did.
And that plan was roundly rejected by our community, so, you know, I'm happy to take into account what is it they would like. But I've been hearing, well, where is it? I was like, you guys, we had this like planned 5 years ago.
Right.
And nobody liked it.
So we did an alternative. I think by almost everybody's, measurement, it's very fair. The people that need the parking, our visitors, will pay for the parking and not property owners downtown with special assessments against their buildings. So it took longer. And I know we're all crossing our fingers about that grant that we could hear any day on, you know, and yeah, we'll have to cross that bridge soon, you know, what we're gonna do. Because if we go with Plan B and fund it ourselves, then obviously we're kissing goodbye the Cheney plan of revamping downtown. Not that those plans were a waste of time and money, because we may eventually get there with additional funds from a couple hundred more parking spaces, right? And that should definitely affect our sales tax. And you know, the parking funds must be spent to solve the parking problem and improvements for downtown. They're restricted for the downtown spaces.
But my question would be, at this point in time, what do we see the community wanting more? Because I hear just as many people that would like to see downtown redone. We have a lot of complaints about, you know, infrastructure downtown.
Yeah.
So like, to me, I don't know which way the community would lean, honestly. If we had to choose between all the rest
Yep.
of the good stuff or just the mobility hub and the parking garage.
Well, Lisa, that sounds like a great point, and if we get the grant, then that'll be a moot point, because we know we're gonna have that, right?
Every day.
But you know what, I think your point is well taken, because if we don't get the grant, I think that some type of polling would be make a lot of sense.
I think just, and I'm sorry to throw this back at staff, but I think we should be prepared for that. I think grants are a little scary for everybody right now.
Yeah.
So I think we should be prepared. If we don't get that, we need to get community engagement immediately. I mean, as immediately as possible.
I mean, if we're actually like splitting hairs here and saying, okay, if it's and or, the and should be the one that makes the money.
I said that, I was just gonna say
I
that.
mean, there is no other unless we make some money.
make the parking
Yeah,
structure.
like, I mean, I get.
Well, I agree with you. I
Yeah,
totally agree
I
with
get
you.
beautifying downtown, but we're not gonna make any money. It'll be like,
If we make money, we can still beautify downtown.
we can do it later,
So then
yeah.
how do we
But
get
you
that out
can't
to the
beautify
community?
downtown if they ain't got no money.
Yeah, but we have to get that to the community. So
Yeah.
that,
You know, but isn't that the famous, don't ask a question for which you do not want the answer? I don't want them to tell me what they want. It has to make fiscal sense. I mean, and I'm saying that out loud, but I get that beautifying our town should always be like primary on our agenda,
But I
but
think what you're saying
fiscally-
is, don't ask them a question that we already know the answer.
we know the answer, we know they wanna make it pretty, but we need to make money to get there, so.
Well, and that's why I bring up
Yeah.
that all of our downtown parking that money is sequestered, it's its own enterprise. We don't spend that on street lights or curbs, on Colorado Boulevard. So eventually, yeah, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, heck, it could take, 10, 15 years. But it eventually, we have additional income to keep improving downtown and make that happen with the addition of a couple hundred more spaces.
Well, not only that, will that pay, hopefully for itself somewhat, but it'll bring more people to town and therefore, yeah, someone might even do that.
Any further questions for HDR?
Joe, can you remind us the approximate cost of each of those phases, or not each of the phases, each of the elements of the project?
Ooh, boy,
Do
you're
you
gonna test my
remember? I'm sorry, I
memory
put you on the
here.
spot here, but I just,
It is a good quiz. Oh, shoot.
I can picture that in my mind, but I can't recall the numbers.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it right there, that's fine.
Yeah. Charlie, do you remember where we landed on Minor Street? I mean, that was one of the.
I did have that question come up, but I was just.
Other larger elements.
Sure.
Maybe I can't think of it off the top.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine, that's fine.
Um,
So one option, another option is, of course, going forward, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, but we could, if we don't get the raise grant, we could go forward with parking structure, the mobility hub, and then seek other grants for the other phases, such as for downtown. There are some grants that may be more, that may be appropriate for just the downtown, rehabilitation. Is that fair to say?
That
What
is,
do you think?
I think the challenge is not knowing, we have some ideas of what are potential grants. I just don't know the exact match off the top of my head.
And we have to break them down into smaller projects, and we have, matches for those, of course, maybe smaller matches. So
Correct.
we could just say, okay, well, we'll break out the Minor Street and we'll just try to pursue some other funding to help us with that.
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah, and if I might add,
Not ideal, but again, we might have to just be a little creative with how we move forward.
yeah, for sure, Andy, I would just add that, we can, as we get to 15% design, when we hear about the current grant status, we can provide you all the information you need in terms of what you need to message to the community, to help make your decision. So we'll run different scenario plannings, like, what is the schedule? Like, when can I get a parking garage or structure if we choose A, B, or C? And then also, when we get to 15% design, we'll be able to refine those numbers, those costs, because we'll have a lot more. The only thing that we can't predict is, unfortunately, I can't predict what tariffs are gonna do, what potential tariffs are gonna do to,
Especially steel, which we're hearing about, right?
so, but I would agree with you, Mayor, that right, wrong, or otherwise, the costs of things continue to rise. So we will have to evaluate that really closely when we get to the 15% design. The other thing that I mentioned about the schedule is, even if we chose today to just go forward with the structure, we still potentially have a year of NEPA. So you're looking into June of next year anyway, just to get through NEPA of the garage, because that's what CDOT's gonna require to use their $6 million. So something else to keep in mind, but again, our intent is that once we get through this phase, we will build out the scenarios with the information that you may need to communicate, to the community.
All right, anything further?
The last thing I'll maybe add on the sort of either or type question is that the CDOT funding is tied directly to the mobility hub. So if you want that 6 million, it has to
Yeah.
go to.
Oh, Charlie, that is very important. Thank you. Important qualifier right there.
Yeah, so we don't collectively have 13 million to apply to.
Right, it's only if,
Right.
right? Yeah, there's the mobility.
Unless we want to give that money back, we're pretty well committed to a mobility hub.
Yeah.
Which we believe can be connected to a parking structure, with some of those spaces being committed to transit and the mobility hub uses, and that's kind of our,
Yes.
where we're going with this.
And until mobility has requirements to meet, right? And they could be met with the parking garage
some of the spaces, and it almost would have to be in order to apply some of that money to the parking structure. We'd have to have some of those dedicated spaces to it within the parking structure, and they'd have to be, some would have to be electrified. Some would probably have to be not for pay, they would just have to be for transit. You couldn't charge for those spaces, as an example.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it does reduce the number of total spaces, the revenue spaces, but again, it's kind of trying to find that balance, you know.
Yeah, but it's not a bad thing to get all of our buses and everything into one space versus places where they park.
All right.
And we do have the State Historic Preservation Office coming next week, am I right about that? For an on-site visit, which is something we've been trying to get scheduled, and that's an important part of the whole NEPA process and the historic preservation process, so.
All right. Hey, Jeremy, I want to say hi. Thank you for joining us. We've got HDR with us. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how much of the discussion you were able to overhear, but before we sign off with HDR, I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions for him.
No, I caught the whole thing and no questions.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much. And again, thanks for coming up and seeing us in person. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you both.
Next up, Dylan, with the housing code amendments.
Yes, so on this work session item, I have two amendments that are state driven essentially. So the first one is about accessory dwelling units. They are being, well, House Bill 24-1152 requires certain state mandated ADU updates this year. Technically speaking, well, they have a list of who has to comply. Technically speaking, even though we're part of DRCOG, which is a municipal metropolitan planning organization, yes, technically we don't have to comply if we don't want to, but I think, Mayor, you were mentioning we may in the future have to comply if we become full members of DRCOG anyway.
Sure, and it makes us eligible for some important things that we would probably want to take advantage of.
And that's the key thing here is that I talked to DOLA, they basically said, if you comply, we have funding to run programs to encourage ADUs, not just these amendments, but we have money for you, basically. That we'd have to apply for, but they want to tailor the programs for what works for small communities like us. So basically, House Bill 24-1152 is pretty specific on what it would require. So basically, we would have to update the code to say where permitted. Basically, it has to be in any zone district that allows single family dwellings. We currently allow them in all zone districts except for RM, which is our rural mountain multifamily. However, you know, it actually, I think, makes sense to add it to historic districts C1 and C2 as well. The reason for that is we have about 60 homes in those districts right now that for one reason or another are just, you know, basically 100-plus-year-old homes that are in a commercial district. And right now they can't have an ADU. So if we're already amending the code to increase where they're allowed, Planning Commission and staff believe, let's just allow it wherever there's a single family home, basically. Second one is that they say we have to review ADUs via an administrative process. Currently, we do that for any single family zone district, but R3 and RM, plus all these commercial zone districts, currently would require you to go through a final development plan, and that final development plan for a new building would require a public hearing. So we'd have to amend the code. Just to clarify, basically, if you're an ADU, you don't have to go through that process. It's just administrative. The other big one is about,
So you wouldn't have to, the neighbors of that property wouldn't have to be informed that there's an ADU going in?
well, they'd still have to go through the administrative final development plan process.
So that would
which still
alert
has a
people within
notice,
150.
300 feet, but in R1, R2, you don't have to do that now. You just apply for a building permit. Because that R1 and R2 don't require final development plans for new buildings. And these are already allowed accessory uses in R1 and R2. So if I wanted to build an ADU at my house, which currently I can't because of the next thing I'll get to.
Space.
You could do it without going through a process where people are notified. So size of ADUs, we, on the low end, we comply, on the high end, we don't. So right now, or vice versa. House bill requires us to allow between 500 and 750 square feet. We currently say you're allowed up to 50% of your primary residence. So it works if you have like 1,500 square foot home, because you'd be allowed 750 square feet. But if you have like an 800 square foot home, our code only allows 400 square feet. And you have to have at least 500 to 750. So we're proposing a small change that would allow you to either build up to 750 square feet or 50% of the primary residence, whichever is greater. So if you have 2,000 square foot home, you have 1,000 square foot, because that's still 50%. We're not reducing what they're already allowed to have. And then I think setbacks are pretty straightforward. It would require you to allow rear setback for ADUs to be 5 feet instead of like R1, for example. Right now it's 15 feet for a rear setback. We do allow sheds and greenhouses and things to be 5 feet already. So basically we'd just be allowing homes to be slightly closer to the rear setback. And then the most controversial one is they have a very convoluted system by which we can allow parking or require parking, I guess. Basically, they say like, you can require off-street parking if there's not an existing off-street parking space. The zone district requires off-street spaces and the block prohibits on-street parking. And there's like 3 blocks in town that would prohibit on-street. There's like a few places we couldn't have on-street parking, but basically.
Only a few? My understanding, I mean, like for rental properties, like for STRs, it's all off-street parking.
Right, but
So an ADU technically is gonna be long-term living, right? Not STRs.
Yep.
So there'll be taxpayers. It's gonna be a tough situation in tight quarters.
Well, and right, so for parking, let's take Wall Street, for example. You know,
Always.
there's a few of us who don't have off-street parking right now. Currently, I cannot build an ADU even if I had space in my backyard or in my basement, or I could pop the top of my house or something. I can't build one because I don't have off-street parking. I'd have to remove a retaining wall, build parking. It would cost me, several $100,000 probably to do it. And so it wouldn't pencil out, obviously. What this House bill requires, if we were to go with it, because we do allow on-street parking on Wall Street, we couldn't say, well, you have to build off-street parking. And that would align with our current primary residence. I'm allowed to, still live in my house, even though I don't have off-street parking. But if I were to build a new house on Wall Street in that exact space, I would have to. So that's the big change, is it would allow, and potentially in those constrained areas, would allow an ADU, and that would have implications on parking. And
There
so,
is no parking requirement, if you have off-street,
well,
on-street parking, you could just build one.
per state statute, if we align with it,
State.
then we would have to basically, unless we don't allow on-street parking, then we can't require off-street parking. So I would say like Montaigne, I don't know if we really allow on-street parking in
I don't
Montaigne.
think so.
So that would be an example of one where, well, we
You'd have
don't
to have
allow
off-street.
on-street parking, so you have to provide off-street
Right.
parking. But
If we allow on-street parking,
then
then
you can't
you can't
require.
require off-street parking.
But I see that being a problem with on-street parking that is already limited.
That's
You're
what
adding
Kate-
more,
that's exactly
you're
what Kate
adding
was
more
talking
capacity, that could be an
Right.
issue.
And again, I'm for ADUs. I think it's a great
Right.
way to provide dense living, but I'm thinking, and maybe not so much east wall, but west wall. Anything along.
Because West Valley gonna have.
They don't have any parking, but
so
anything
they don't
along
even want
Virginia,
to use it.
now again, even the properties though in themselves limit that. So I think what would be helpful for me is if I could actually see the properties, it would be prime ADU locations. And
It
if
says
we're,
about 60, right?
and if we're saying that these properties aren't gonna have that parking on-street parking situation, then maybe it's not a big deal, but if they're allowed anywhere, then it is a big deal.
The difficult thing about saying this is prime for an ADU and this is not is someone can build an ADU inside their existing home. And so, like, there's a lot of, like, my house, it's another example, I don't have space to put a detached unit unless I'm like digging into the hillside, which is kind of no space requirement anyway. But
Well, it's yours.
I could excavate my basement and put an ADU down there, and it wouldn't,
Okay, so it is gonna be a problem.
it could, be. I mean,
Could be, but potentially the cost to do that,
well,
If you're
and
gonna do
it's
it under
not
a
gonna
125-year-old
happen
house, I
too
say,
often.
good luck to you.
yeah, it's not gonna
Right.
Because
happen.
right now, my house is being held up by jacks.
I think.
Yeah, fire code, you have to separate those two units with,
Right, you have to do
Gotta
this
be
unit to unit
I
separation.
mean, there's some costs there that would be.
And there's a lot of limitations to ADUs on how many I think we will get, even if we pass this. Because even if I have a prime flat half-acre lot or something somewhere in town, which doesn't really exist, but I have space to
They've already
put
got
a,
ADUs.
if I put a 400 square foot, footprint, I have that, like, I still have to pay for the water and sewer tap for a new foundation, I have to build it, I have to figure all that out, and it's probably on $100,000 or more project at that point. And so I don't know how many people really can do it, even if we were to give $10,000 grants to people.
All you have to do is look at the city of Denver. And that's what I was telling you about Kevin Flynn, watching people for 10+ years fighting. And, out of 10 years, out of 10 that he watched in his area, one win. After all of that hair pulling and hard feelings with neighbors, it doesn't pencil out.
And again, like I said, I don't wanna be, I am pro ADU, I am also pro resident, which means I'm always gonna be protective of the parking. So if we roll this out and it comes out in the public eye, I think we need to explain it fully, like, we don't expect that this is actually possible wildly, but it does actually give us some leg up with DOLA or however you guys need to say it, but we need to spell it out more.
Well, it does bring us within state compliance.
However you gotta say it so that they understand that we're doing it for the greater good, and we don't really think it's gonna have an impact on it, like on neighborhoods right away.
And I do think the other important thing is the way our ADU regulations already exist, you can't use them as short-term rental, for
Right,
example. Like, it could be a guest house, it could be like mother-in-law suite, you could rent it long-term. But you're not gonna have,
Is
Airbnb
our cottage technically an ADU?
I don't think so,
You don't have
because it
water.
wouldn't qualify.
I know,
for
but that's
dwelling
easy
unit.
to, that's easy.
I
to-
think it would be an excellent ADU.
I think if you added, I don't know the square footage, 200 square feet is still the limit.
350.
350. So if you added a kitchen and you added a bathroom, then it would be an ADU, and you have off-street parking, so you could do it, and it would be,
But she's gonna have to get a separate water tap, right? You said?
at the moment, we would require a new foundation that accesses water to have a new water tap. But, and this is funky thing with the code currently, is if you build it within your existing foundation, you don't need a tap, so you wouldn't have to pay that. So if I could excavate my basement, I wouldn't have to pay for an additional tap.
Oh, you could.
I'm just curious, because there are places like mine, like ours around town, and I was just thinking, you could
Right.
convert something into an ADU, so that's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah,
That would be a lot less
I
costly.
would say there's gonna be limited spaces that would be cost effective to do this at.
right. I think the key one that is, in my opinion, the controversial one is parking. The
Mm.
rest of them, I
Yeah.
think, just make it very slightly easier to build one if you already wanted to. It wouldn't save you much money, but it would open up the code a little bit to be able to build one where maybe you couldn't afford. The
So,
parking one.
My question would be, as we adopt this, we find out there's a problem right away with the first ADU that's built and saying,
Mhm.
oh, we shouldn't have allowed that. How hard is it to go back and change it?
Yeah,
Are we required to have this for this, or maybe
Well,
we're saying we technically
Yeah,
don't?
so it's interesting because Carmen and Nick thought we had to because we're part of Dr. Cog, which is the
But we're
MPO.
not in it, right.
But technically, we're not in their MPO area. So if, because they have their official MPO boundary, We're outside it, but we are a member.
And
And
I
so-
do believe in the next 6 months, that's going to be expanded.
And if they expand that boundary, then we are forced to comply. And so my thought was, let's just, we're pushing, we've kind of talked about how do we encourage more ADUs. We didn't talk about parking as part of that.
We did kind of actually.
But, that would, so this opens it up in a way that we didn't really contemplate before of just saying, let's eliminate a parking minimum for this thing.
And I
But-
agree with Dylan completely, is the one thing that I have hesitation about. Everything else, I mean, it's,
No, I mean, we've got water, we could sell water, that's, I mean, we've got water right now.
The mayor's point's a good one, if we said we're not willing to do this and we'll fight it, then I think we have to fight expansion of the MPO boundary. Which I don't know if we really can, there's probably.
How
methods to
successful
part
would
of
we
it.
be?
and my other thing is, I don't think that parking, there's so little of these that are gonna be built, that I
I feel like
don't
it's
think
not
it's gonna.
I don't think it's gonna be a big deal,
But I don't know that for sure,
but you
because like in
can't,
your situation, you
but I do have
crowded
off-street
parking
parking.
already,
Yeah, but I have 3 spots.
Yeah.
Off-street.
but not you specifically, but Wall Street specifically.
Well, whatever's going in next to me, whatever goes in the future, I bet you that would be,
Might be an issue.
But yeah, but you also think somebody who's building an ADU, must be like, does think about that. I know, like, maybe they'll be like, where does this person gonna park?
well, they actually, I mean,
Potentially,
that's
right?
really the staff's responsibility to
Yeah.
say, this is a great spot for an ADU. You're already fighting with your neighbors about your parking. We know where people fight. All you gotta do is go on Facebook. You know where the fights are happening around town. So, I mean, but can you tell them no? Absolutely
No, you
not.
can't. No,
No.
no.
Walk or walk, it's good for them.
I don't know, I feel like
I'm
there's so few
60, I can't go uphill
places-
anymore.
Oh,
Done.
girl, stop it. You didn't just, put one foot in the grave.
I've had more surgeries than you've had babies.
I could do, I don't know what criteria I would use, but I certainly could do some sort of analysis to say like, this is a prime spot and this isn't. The challenge, I guess, with doing that is if I'm identifying these are prime spots, am I, increasing their property value because you can build it.
Putting it out.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Well, not only that, you're gonna make somebody else angry that, yeah.
They're not.
And Dylan, I would even suggest it isn't a good use of your time, merely
Yeah.
because there will be so few of these ever built.
If somebody does do an ADU, and I'm saying this as somebody who has a carriage house, you always think about the parking. Like, I am very clear about where parking is and where parking isn't. And I've had tenants that have had more than one vehicle. I'm like, okay, here's where your second vehicle, like, we're very clear about
That's
where,
it.
I don't know, I feel like this
That's necessarily
allows
everywhere, but
for people.
So
I
our
think that's
neighbor-
part of the
our neighborhood
equation.
is good though. Our
Yeah.
neighborhood is really good.
Yeah, but if you parked in your next door neighbors, they'd be like, hey,
Oh, no, seriously, this
What's going on?
weekend, we had, Wall Street Watch had, hey, we've got a big van gonna be on the street, Kate and Doug, so you bring your trailer home, it's gonna be a problem. Next door neighbor, we have a ton of family in town, they're parking in front of your house, let us know if it's gonna be a problem. I mean,
Yeah,
we are tight
just wait till
on our
a family
street,
event. and then
Yeah.
your friends
Have
and
2 family
are
events and it's all a
parking
group
around
show, yeah.
the Neighborhood and
but it worked out.
pretty
Everybody
curious.
gets
All right, anything further on ADUs? Dylan, the next one I don't think is quite as thorny.
Right.
When do we have to make a decision on this?
No, we're actually voting tonight.
Yeah, there's first
Oh, this-
reading of the ordinance tonight,
Okay.
so I wanted to just present it ahead of time to see,
Alright.
answer questions and things ahead of time. There will, since it would be code amendment, it'll have a public hearing in July sometime, if it passes tonight in first reading. But if there's any changes, we did obviously, we can make those changes if we want to more.
You know, obviously, since the state's making us abide or trying to make us abide, we can't make a minor amendment or anything.
I think if there are minor amendments to be made, we have to talk about whether it's in the bill or not, because there are some minor things that we've kind of tried to tailor to this specific community. I think probably a bigger thing would be, if we think parking can be an issue, can we, as we talk parking management, tweak things slightly to make it less of an issue or something. I don't know, maybe not in certain areas where.
I have an open mind, but I think that would make us ineligible for the goodies that the state rolls out on us.
Yeah, I think they don't really want people to notify people.
Otherwise,
They'd have,
every city in the
would have a-
metropolitan area would be,
have their own little amendment.
they'd undo it.
So, anyway, this next one, yeah, I think, so another thing that the state's rolling out as part of Proposition 123 is that governments need to demonstrate that they've implemented an expedited review process for housing projects that are affordable, or at least 50% meet their state definition of affordable, which is 60% of our designated AMI for rental housing, 100% for sale housing. And we have to do it, unquestionably, we're required to demonstrate that we've implemented this process. But we're going to be eligible for grant funding for that as well. The key thing about this is we already meet it, in my opinion. I calculated it out, the time it would usually take to go through a pretty relatively simple affordable housing project. Every single one of our processes could meet that 90-day requirement. So all we really have to do is pass a resolution stating a commitment for expediting this. The other thing that I'm proposing we do in that stated commitment, which would just be a resolution, which is on the schedule for tonight, is to commit to, where possible, schedule special meetings for planning commission to expedite the review, which at most is 3 weeks of expedited review. Planning commission was on board with that. And then also just develop checklists and guides for developers to say, hey, you want to build affordable housing here? Here's how you do it, make it really clear.
Yes.
You can hand it out. I think it's just a good policy to come up with anyway. Like, it's just helpful for that. I think historic preservation, we should do that as well. And as time.
We've already
goes on,
moved in that
working
direction
on that.
for historic preservation.
So it's, it's some staff time for that one, but ultimately it's a positive thing regardless. So, anyway, we have a resolution on the table tonight that has been vetted by Nick and Carmen, and they believe will achieve all the requirements just by passing that resolution, formally recognizing that we will expedite reviews for those projects.
And there's a carrot here, as long as we adopt this by December 31st. Right, $50,000 grant eligibility to help us down this path. So that's nice.
Right.
Since we were interested in affordable housing and taking advantage of Proposition 123 money.
And the key thing is, like, at last meeting, we talked about creating more of a nuance, like, this is what's affordable to us. Obviously, this expedited review is tied to the state's definition, so we could come up with a more nuanced, stricter definition for incentive programs, subsidies, things like that. But we'd still have to commit to expedited review, even if it's this slightly higher level of income, I guess, versus what we come up with. But since we're already doing it anyway, for the most part, it shouldn't be a big problem or conflict in that respect. So anyway, yeah, that's on the agenda for resolution, and if the resolution passes, then nothing else is needed. We don't have any code amendments or anything like that.
And we're in compliance.
All right, any questions for Dylan? Jeremy, any questions? All right, Dylan, that was and your regular report, quite good also. Thank you for putting that together for us tonight. Next up, we are going to talk bike storage proposal. Welcome.
Thanks.
Oh, you got that one too?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Nelson from Colorado Precision Plasma has a bit of a presentation that I'll pull up, and you may have noticed as you're walking in, he's created a nearly to scale mini version, I would say, of what he has in mind. Prototype. But basically, Gary connected us and said, hey, I know there's issues with getting bikes downtown, and then once they are downtown, how do you store them securely? How do we actually encourage our investment over there to turn your money down here, essentially? And so, the goals that we've come up with is, how do we create secure, safe storage that's convenient and attractive and flexible? And that's what we basically put it to Nelson when we connected and said, hey, maybe you could design something that works. You kind of came to us and said, I think I could potentially fill this need for you in a way that doesn't require valet parking, staffed storage, or expensive bike lockers or anything like that. So, staff, I think, and Business Community Promotions Board think that this could work quite well. But I'll just pass it to Nelson and Nelson. And I'll share that presentation you sent me.
Yeah, I got a couple extra points on there that we had discussed. It's actually kind of some neat points for designing bike racks for town. And I'll just preface this, I did run the idea past my Dutch wife and she gave it a thumbs up as well. We have one of those intricate bike storage over there in the Netherlands. So yeah, you want to just pop off to that side here? I think it's scrolled actually. So I just want to give you kind of just general background on kind of the work I do. So I do a lot of custom work. The left-hand side there is actually a coffee shop I did over in Littleton. We are expanding beyond just benches and tabletops to actually wall sconces as well. But again, answering some really specific needs for that space, including keeping people moving through table spaces. So making sure tables are just small enough to fit 2 laptops so people can't get too comfy and spend more money. Moving to the right there, actually, more recent, little smaller items are anything from custom fire pit lids over to mega bears. So those are actually 4.5 foot tall bears. She's actually very tall when she came to pick up the very little surprise. All the way to just custom business signs for even customers over in Tennessee. So very flexible with kind of what I'm able to build, and actually experienced the bike situation in downtown last year when I came through town. My buddy and I went riding, came over to town, couldn't find a place to put my bike, ended up just putting it right in front of the doorway. So yeah, it kind of opened me into how can I possibly help kind of solve the problems that we're seeing here in town. Yeah. So on top of what Dylan identified as some kind of issues that need solved in town, I kind of relisted a couple here and added a few more. So essentially, we're trying to find a unique solution for storing the bikes that's going to be eye-catching, very simple as well. It needs to be non-permanent, so be able to move it out of town when necessary. So when winter time comes, you can get your bike rack out of town, put it in storage, break it down as necessary, or simply just pick it up with a forklift and move it. It needed a really simple bike locking mechanism. I think we have discussed bike lockers, incredibly expensive. Sure, they work great, but at like $5,000 a pop for one bike, that's a little excessive. And it requires people, the town, actually, potentially even public works to be able to go over and make sure that those locks are working still if one of them breaks. So kind of dependencies that are not super great. City or sponsor signage. So being able to actually put your city logo on there. And even, I think we discussed actually using magnets if you wanted to hang some notices about Virginia Canyon or the surrounding bike areas. And then kind of the last bit there, long lasting antique design. I feel like that was kind of important, especially for towns like this, towns like Fruita, towns like Crescent View, where having heavy duty mountain, kind of mountain themed hardware is pretty important. So those are my kind of constraints for design. So what I came up with was actually outside. So you can go to the next slide there. So this is actually where I brought back by last time, same as today. This is just a prototype to kind of show everyone that, you can actually hang bikes upright and fit them in a small space. Final product would be 1/4 inch thick plate and 3/16 tubing. So very, very robust, very nice looking items, rounded edges. They look really pretty, I think, when I see those kinds of materials. And we can fit anywhere from, in this case, only 5 bikes up to potentially 20 bikes, depending if you want to do very long or even double road bike racks.
Yeah, I think the goal was in this chat was, could we just fit it into a parking space or an unactivated vendor spot?
I
Can we do it
noticed
right there?
you had the, not by.
Like right along City Hall, you could get 40 bikes.
Done.
Yeah, I was talking with Nelson before the meeting, and it was where the bump outs are.
Yeah, that's a
for
good idea.
The street lights, because those are not activated spaces for the Dakota. The 5 or the 6, did the 6 bike rack
Would work
would
there
fit right
too.
there where we have the bump out.
12. You did a double sided one, you could have people load bikes from both sides and we'll really
Yeah.
start to fit a lot of those in there. And so one of the kind of benefits for this that we discussed last time, last month during the business and promotion meeting, was, you have storage for these bikes. There's going to be hard and steel chain on there. How do you kind of promote people to interact with the businesses? And the businesses seem pretty on board with being able to supply locks. So whether they have just racks of locks or they rent them out with with a meal or something, that could be something that really kind of generates additional interaction between your customers and or with the businesses and the people visiting.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer. It's gonna bring people from the east end down, west end, whatever.
So you just use the regular cable lock?
Right there, is that the
So you don't even need one. So there's gonna be integrated hardened steel chain, so something that's gonna be pretty difficult for someone to take a grinder to, especially on Main Street. And or a minor street, and on top of that, you pretty much just need to bring just the lock. So whether you wanna bring a dinky little gym lock, or you wanna bring a hardcore padlock for a storage locker, it's up to you. The design, actually, if you wanna go back to the previous slide, the design's pulled from currently commercially available bike racks that go in back of cars, for carrying $20,000 bikes. So it's something that, people are gonna be accustomed to using, and requires minimal effort to get the bikes loaded in.
What's your price point on your signs starting, like
For-
the Tennessee sign that you had up there?
That one, that was a permit for somebody, but
Okay.
I'm typically right around like the $300, $300 for each one of those signs.
So that would be an addition on, like, if we wanted to do a sign.
Oh,
one of
that's
our
all, that's gonna
logos.
be included into that.
Gotcha.
So the whole sides here, so kind of the side facing us or the right and left side, those will just be a solid sheet of steel, so we can actually just cut the design out.
Oh, very cool.
Yep, and actually, to bring up a point, that was mentioned earlier, I didn't actually get your name, but Ed had brought up, what about kids when they bring their bikes over, they might not be able to reach those upper racks. So one side could have a city emblem, the other side we could just do notches, the width of a tire. So you could just back your tire up in there and still be able to lock it up as a little kid, or if you're older, you have a head in your bike.
It'd be
So, a lot
interesting
of
if we
flexibility.
could, if some of the businesses wanted to be sponsors and have their logo on one of the half of the sign, one half of the bike rack, they could pay for.
Yeah.
They never took it.
Okay, I think that's a great idea, and I had thought of, you give me $20, I give you a lock, you turn the lock in and give you the $20 back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
That
don't
whole
charge
idea
for
is
it.
just, I want them to come in the door, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, don't charge me for it, just make sure you bring it back, otherwise it's cash in hand.
Yeah.
Or while you're eating at the restaurant. just-
Yeah,
There you go.
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if I had a $20,000 bike, I would be being guarded by a bear.
Yeah, it's amazing how quick you get to $20,000. Like,
Yeah, not to speak for any of the business community coaching board, but multiple people did express that they'd be interested in potentially sponsoring if they could get it right in front of their business.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of thing, so.
Sure,
Makes sense.
Well, if they want to give up one of their spots, like some, because if that's an activated spot, it has to be theirs.
Right.
I mean, to me, keeping it out of parking spots is better, like, let's not make that a worse situation. I mean, it's truly City Hall and the other side of Tommyknockers, there's a lot of potential in both of those
And
ends of
there
the
is one of
streets.
those bump outs right in front of, Citizens Park, for
Yeah.
example, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
There's two on,
They did just bomb down a big hill, I think they could probably walk a block to go to, another restaurant, I'm just saying.
no, but there's two of those streetlight bump outs on every street.
Yeah.
Like so that's 6 right there. There'd be 2 spots for like 6 bikes, so 12 bikes on each block.
What I'd like, I mean, not so, maybe some sort of prototype so we see, because it does get a little crowded, like a lot of this stuff. So I'd like to see something temporary, just to give me the idea what the footprint looks like, so we can walk by it and go, okay, 8 of us walking down the street, how does that feel? Is it too much?
We could put
Stuff.
one in front of the new police station. They
Sure.
wouldn't mess with those bikes there.
Oh,
But
no.
that's really, I mean, but what I'm
That's
saying
actually a
is,
good idea.
our property is free, we don't have to ask anybody to use our stuff, so. Why wouldn't we? The library, I mean, I'm not, again, I can't speak for what Libby would want at the
Hey
library,
man, leave
but
that grass alone.
the grass, I beg for the grass, so I'm not
I
doing
know.
anything to the
Don't do anything
grass.
to grass.
But those rocks, we could do something over there too.
So one of the benefits, but one of the benefits of kind of going with, I guess, a smaller fab shop like myself is for these kind of things is the dimensions are something you get to tell me. So we're gonna do bump outs that need to be 48 inches wide, it needs to be 25 feet long. Okay, we can work with that. Oh, it could be 80 inches wide by 20 feet long. Great, here's the options now, what we can jam into that space.
Right.
One of the benefits of doing this is it does take up a much smaller amount of space as far as walking width. So that could really solve that issue,
You're-
of people walking side by side.
You're in front of a very sympathetic council to locals, so we like
Yeah.
small businesses, that's what we promote, so it's a good council for
Can
that.
we see the next slide where you had some of it's drawn?
Oh,
So the one on the right, is that like,
That's a biggie.
That's.
That's like a biggie, yeah, it's essentially what I have out front, but I didn't wanna go toss another $300 of steel into a prototype.
No,
So-
but that's.
Buy all your
Yeah,
steel
yeah.
now, sir.
But I think you said you could probably get the 10, like have 20 on a rack and have it fit a whole, you know.
Yeah.
a whole bump out.
Yeah,
That's
so for the whole bump out, we do, essentially the design right now, we make it instead of more tilted at the end, more vertical, more space for the actual signage. Put a couple more bikes on there, make it double sided, put even more bikes on there.
Is it anchored to the ground or is it just standing?
It's gonna be somewhere between 500 to 1,000 pounds when it's fully assembled, depending on how big the item is. You can add that in there to have some sort of fixturing to the ground, but at that kind of weight shouldn't be going anywhere.
The bus down Main Street, Big Minor Street.
Is that something you think is gonna be pretty critical? Just be able to fixture it down somehow?
Well,
I don't mind adding that in, it's easy.
my question.
No, if they're staying overnight, that's my concern. I will tell you, one time at CSU, I saw somebody drive up didn't see it, but they drove up a flatbed.
Oh, just pick the whole rack up, yeah.
Picked the whole rack up with 30 bikes through it on the back.
Nice, yeah, that ain't happened,
So
so.
my question is, if the city's offering these, do we create ourselves a liability with this for reasons like that?
I think tons of cities have bike racks all over the place. It is kind of, where you park your car, Scott, and somebody comes by and keys your Tesla.
I'm just saying worst case.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
And we do have some of those little wavy bike racks now. I'd say we have between City Hall, near Tommyknocker and Citizens Park, we have space for like 15 bikes, maybe. But it's like you have to roll it and lean it, your frame up against it and then bring a full lock and all of that, so.
And then leave it over here.
Yeah.
Way over there.
I think it's a good idea.
So yeah, I mean, if you need something to fixture to the ground, that's something I can definitely incorporate onto there, just big footings with some pass-through bolts. You know, anybody with enough time can definitely get through anything, but, you know.
And Guy, I don't-
Main Street's a good spot.
There's not a lot of stand downtown kind of situations.
Well, I'm wondering, if bikes are gonna be there overnight, somebody leaves them, whatever.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you got a $10,000 bike outside, I don't think you're standing downtown, like leaving it outside.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave my one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't leave
I'd
anything
go there
outside.
overnight. I'll leave it there for dinner, but not for overnight.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't, and we don't have hotels down here. So I don't think that's really that big of a deal. We can convince all the hotels to let them bring their bikes in now, that's where we need to start working on, those guys.
Yeah, but could that be something that's mitigated just by signage? These bikes are free for your use, people can walk.
But
We're not
racks are
res-
free from-
You're actually, right,
Yeah.
not bikes. Racks are free for use, bring your own lock, we're not responsible.
Oh, yeah, I think that's, yeah. I mean, we could even Google this right now and go, is this an unspoken rule? Just ask the guys from Comba, I mean, they'll know. Like,
Yeah, if someone breaks and takes a bike off a rack, is it the rack's fault?
yeah, I don't think it's the rack or the city that it's in fault, I think it's whoever stole the bike,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, any further questions for Nelson?
Nope, sounds good.
Thank you.
I have a question. I think at the last meeting, or maybe at the Business and Community Promotion Board, the question came up, I believe, about making it more portable. In other words, like with a forklift
Yes,
or with
absolutely.
a couple people. Did you think about that? Is that possible that it can be lifted like with a forklift or a front end loader?
So I was actually saying, I think I put it on one of these slides. I could actually add, yep, right there, so I could do, oh, I didn't put it on this one. I can actually put pockets for it, to go on there. Obviously, if it gets too long, we don't wanna be doing that,
Right.
but we can still incorporate those in racks, you know, let's say 6 foot or less.
Because that would be an important element for us, I think, with, activating the downtown just in the summer.
Right. Yeah, so if it's on like a bump out scenario, if you go with that kind of situation where you don't need to move it too much, you can maybe not include that if you're going with a parking spot, option. You can either make it so it comes apart easily or pockets to move it.
So one of the questions, Mayor, was whether we might wanna, try one. We might wanna acquire one this year, see how it works downtown. And then, perhaps budget them for next year, more of them. So,
That is a great
I
suggestion.
think we could, find money within our budget, the improvement fund or the parking fund to make this work.
Could it be promotions, Andy, could we use it as like, it is sort of promoting downtown, right? gray there, but
Yeah, I think this would be better come from like a capital line, capital
plan?
fund, yeah, capital fund, yeah, just because of the costs.
But how many spaces you talking about? Like one unit?
Like,
I think
Nail
that
that down,
maybe
but-
would be a question is, I mean,
I mean,
I don't really
think
know what-
maybe we open it to 2 units instead of 1 unit, you know?
I think if there's direction on
What-
how many
1 unit
bikes we
is
want to accommodate.
not really gonna.
are you two smaller units as opposed to one big one, is what you're saying, so.
Yes.
So maybe two that have, the one you showed out here is 4.
That's
You
fine,
said
yeah.
That's 5, and you go out to 7.
We can make it 10.
Well, no, we were just looking like in the space that you had it out to, you were doing measuring out. to
Oh,
the
yeah,
telephone pole.
brought it out to
Like,
center.
so 14, if you did 2 and they had like 12 to 14, that gives us another 30 spaces, almost 30 spaces for bike stands.
And I
And
think
see
for
how-
businesses, it'd be good if they're spread apart too.
Yeah, like, and see how, and ask the businesses that they're parking here, we need you to eyeball this for us.
well, in this first year too, they can be moved around too. I mean, if we want, if this is not so popular, we need a little more visibility, we can move them.
And of course, the more you order, the kind of easier it is for me to fabricate those, so prices change a little bit.
Sure. We'll
Alright.
go that direction, we can give it a test run.
All right, very good.
Great.
Nelson, thank you very much.
Thanks for
everyone's
coming out.
time.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
absolutely.
Yeah, see you next time.
All right, looks like, I will be, talking about the project updates. There's a lot of projects. Of course, Ed is knee deep in several of them.
And I'm late to the streets party.
Oh. And, anyways, Ed, I'm gonna have you kick this off, and also thank you for providing some illustrations for us.
I have some additional illustrations
diagram.
right here,
Yep,
because there's some new information
oh,
on this. And we'll cover that after I start with the old information. The old information is that you guys had approved us to spend, what was it, Andy, $4,400
it was per
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 service
yeah.
to connect.
And this is just Idaho Street, the
Yeah.
diagonal Idaho Street, just west of the rec center.
Right, to connect, the existing service lines into the new main.
And
Well, it
just a little
turns out-
background, council, this, just a refresher, this is the sewer main that the 4 Points project, the housing project is constructing from their
Nice.
3 buildings down Idaho Street into our existing main there
So
at
there's our whole-
12th and
Mhm.
Idaho, do I have that right?
11th.
11th and Idaho.
So it'll start at about 9th and Minor and proceed east down the diagonal and then into the manhole over there by the rec center. So what we discovered when they started digging is that we're nowhere near the old main. It's over by the fence line where everyone has their fence.
Oh, with the flowers. there.
Yeah,
As
so,
far as-
yes,
Yes.
so there's no practical way to find where their service lines are. And then just connect them. So
That seems problematic.
it is.
Seems so happy about it though.
So, after some research, and some discussions with the locals there and Kim. And figuring out exactly what's going on, what we would really like to do is connect them to the main. But that's gonna cost a little bit more.
Is it because of the new fencing? Is that what you're thinking? And that we'd take down all the fence and then put it back up?
Right, well, I
At the cost
think
of the city?
that maybe what they had thought was when they dug the new one, that they would be digging like through where these other services were, and they could just tie them in. But, that's how they did Minor Street over there where I live, and that's how we did Colorado Boulevard and that's.
So it was a legitimate assumption. Is what you're saying,
Kind of.
sort of,
Thank you.
okay.
Well, we'd like to have everyone tied in. So, and that would mean digging back towards the house, somewhere along where that fence line is, and finding where the old main was. We've identified all the spots here on Idaho Street where there's gonna be a service line. And then find that and then put a new piece from that new main to, or where the old main was, to the new. I hope that's not confusing.
No, it totally makes sense, and we're going to be very sensitive to the folks that live there, because they're not happy.
Well, we're certainly going to stay in communication with them,
A lot of
And-
communication.
yes. Of what exactly needs to be done here. And then the right of way in this zone is extremely huge. And I talked to Andy about maybe adjusting that. We talked about maybe adjusting that. So that this kind of thing doesn't happen in the future.
That's too big,
It is too big.
that's too big.
Because it was the old railroad right away, and as Ed pointed out today, it actually even cuts through some portions of some of the houses, to which I have no idea how they would get,
Sir,
like title insurance. It blows my
Survey,
mind that you're
right.
able to buy those houses, but, sorry.
Well, and that main is on our property, it's not, it's along the fence line, but it's on our property.
Because the right of way goes,
30
it
feet
pretty
wide.
much goes clear in their yards
Into
and
their fence,
right next to their
So-
houses
So
yeah.
and through some of them.
is the problem that we're trying to solve, how do we get them to comply to this and make them happy at the same time? Is that the problem?
Well,
It's a
I think
cost.
what Ed is pointing
Well,
out.
then we know that this is gonna cost us money, so.
Well, yeah, and Ed, do we have any guesstimate? Is it gonna be like 2,000 more per
I
house?
turned this into the contractor.
Okay,
And he's gonna get us a price on what it would cost to go from the old main to the new.
okay.
And then he is also going to give us a price on what it would cost for each one of these people, if they so choose to replace their portion of the line from the old main to the house.
So I have a proposition that, and you're maybe going, maybe not completely know what the answer to. So it sounds like our right of way is on their property. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Our
what if
property is
we,
on their property.
our property is on, yeah, our property is their
The right
property.
of way extends into their
Right.
yards.
So what if
And-
our negotiation is this? We're gonna take care of this, we need to get you on our main, you need a new main, we need this to happen. We're gonna have to take your property down. What if we pay for the surveying, so each of your houses are resurveyed properly, and we give you the right of way? And that's,
We make
And
our
then-
right of way smaller.
and then we make our right of way smaller, but you replace your fence, but now your house is in compliance with the survey that as you see fit. Is that too much of work for us, or is that, I mean, there's a lot going on over there. A lot of things have been stirred up because of this particular little road, but if their houses could be easier to sell in the future, because we help them come into, I don't think the word's
right of way
compliance.
issue has to be. done
We've gotta
through
decide that.
Legal means, right? We're gonna have to use Carmen to decide how we handle that.
But we can yield an
Yeah,
easement
we
to
could
them.
do a new survey.
Yeah.
And to show just the amount of right of way that we need for the road, for the utilities. And then, the property owners would, acquire more property from the reduced right of
I
way.
mean, I'm just guesstimating here, Ed, but I mean, wouldn't like a 12 to 15 foot right away work for us?
I would think, yes, absolutely.
But also you said that the contractor is going to give you, cost for the homeowners to go to the new main.
And well, it's because.
That's not that
That's
far.
outside
Their
of our-
portion of
Yeah.
their yard.
That's
There-
that's their
that's-
deal.
It's because that old main is about the fence line. So I'm kind of, thinking that at the fence line is kind of an agreed upon spot where, hey, this is
From
where
there-
the property line
From there,
is.
they pay forward, right?
Right,
Okay, gotcha.
because that's clearly in their yard, in my opinion. Even though it's in a right of way, the fence is in
Well, they've
On
been
the
on
other
it,
side of the fence, it's in their yard.
they've been on it for years, so
Yeah.
kind of like they recognize this is their backyard, this is the city's property.
We're abandoning the old line, right?
That's what yes.
And it was 4 Points obligation to put in this new line.
They had to put in a larger sewer line
But
because the existing one wasn't big enough for them to put those large buildings.
So was it their obligation
How much
to
does the survey
attach
cost?
the existing customers to that new line?
Not under their scope, no.
Wasn't under their scope to
How did
attach
we
the
miss
new,
that?
if they're putting in a new line, shouldn't they attach the new?
Well, we had committed to connect the property owners along this line
One's
to,
just
to
this
the new
one
line.
spot is all.
And the problem is that, when the contractor installed the new main, they didn't they only came across one service line. The other, and that was connected, but the other 4 service lines are connected to this old main that Ed was speaking about. And that is like on the side of the road. They just didn't come across it. So now in order to get these homes connected, we not only do we need to have the 4,400 to connect the service lines, but we're gonna have an extra length of service line that has to go from the new main to the old main to reconnect them.
right.
So that's,
I
and we
understand
should
that.
have that by our next meeting, we hope.
But this is
Right.
from, their new service line is from 9th, you said, right?
It goes from 9th, yes.
So there's no other houses connecting to that service line?
Well, and.
I'm so glad
that's
you
what we
asked, so
learned
glad
on-
you asked that, Scott. We were just talking about that
Here's an updated map that I drew on with pen, because we literally just had a meeting like 30 minutes ago.
Oh.
Okay. So, and I just drew on there with pen. So pretend the dark green line turns into a pen line, and that's where their new main will go. And then the light green line is like an extension of where the old main is. So over here at number 6, I have written that we're gonna have to do the same thing with the services that are between 9th and 10th. The original thinking was is
And
that
this
all
is,
those houses.
this is on minor now.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Idaho goes diagonal and connects to minor, then it goes west, yeah.
all right, yeah, so. The original, the thinking was is that all those houses sewer drain to Center.
Center Alley.
Center Alley,
Which is to the north of those homes.
which while we were out there today, we were like, well, there's a sewer clean out right in the yard.
On
And
minor
there's
street.
water flowing in the manhole, so somebody's sewer line attached to that.
Doesn't go to the alley, but goes to minor street, at least
So
in one,
some
at
go
least in
different
one.
ways, some
Yeah,
go one way.
Yeah, a
some
lot
go-
of the homes, of course, the sewer goes to the alley, yep. But here, we're finding that some go to the street.
Right, and then as for the ones that are between 10th and Idaho Street, they're gonna run into those with the new main. So they'll attach those as they go.
So that is not our concern.
Well, that
I
might.
mean, it is our
Good.
concern, but.
There would be that $4,400 connection charge,
Oh,
that
sweet
would
baby
be
G.
on us, so there would be a couple more of those, am I right, Ed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Number, good news, though. Actually, I put number 6 over here. The other number 6
127.
at 1027, that's Kim's. She has an agreement with, 4 Points to put in a new sewer line from her clean out, which is right next to her house, all the way to the new main. When they do that, they're gonna run into number 5 because it's tied together in about that location. So I'm thinking they could probably use the same trench and just kind of do them at the same time.
So how did she get that?
There's some kind of like, easement agreement between her and 4 Points, and I think I've got a copy of it in my
Well,
bag.
that's because they had,
I saw it.
they had other issues
Yeah,
with their
so they
foundation.
traded,
Yeah,
Okay,
they traded their, get what they wanted to get versus their attachments.
Without going into it in too much detail, behind our house, there's an easement, like on Four Points property.
Yeah.
That, essentially was trade leveraged, I guess.
they,
they did a swap.
yeah, they swapped, okay. I like that.
So Ed, what happens to sewer line at Ninth?
It ends at night, nothing. That's the top of the line.
Well, like Scott said, what are the choices? It is what it is. We
Right,
we
it's
gotta
on
do
the
it.
top of the hill. So everything on minor, like 876 rolls to
To
the,
East.
West.
Van Carroll lift station. And then it
Okay,
gets pumped up to Center
And
Hill.
remember that minor west of Ninth, that was rebuilt and the utilities replaced. So that's an
Yes.
earlier project, a number of years ago.
and that is where the triangle, where the triangle section that we have, those houses go down to that? Does that go down to the Narragansett? Ninth
At
is,
Ninth, it falls east and west there.
it falls both directly,
Correct. Yeah. But west of Ninth has already been replaced.
and they're only attaching from Ninth to the east.
That catches their third building there.
We just didn't know some of those houses were attached there, and we thought they
And
were.
that's why we just
center.
wanted to give you a little update here, give you. a
Right,
heads
and there
up.
may be others in this section between 10 to 9.
Yeah.
But we definitely know of one. All right, so yay, next road.
Yeah.
What's the next road?
Wall Street, 14 and 1500 block.
Wall Street. Oh, this one should be easy.
I gotta say that, man.
That's in the packet.
We'll move on screen, but it's not.
So, pretty much just what we've been working on here is establishing a right of way.
Yeah, it is.
Down Wall Street
It's in our package.
that, avoids flowers and,
Please,
yes, and driveways and things that we don't want to run in there.
are we doing that walkway? It's right there, 15th.
It is drawn on the map. We don't have any plans to actually do anything yet, with the exception of some tree cleanup.
But it does exist.
It does
That
exist.
walkway exists, it's community built, but right now we're not planning any improvements there. There are a couple dead trees in the right of way that we are gonna remove.
Right, we did speak with, Hank from APAS about doing a 10-foot wide paving job all the way down Wall Street. And maybe some options for the homeowners to pave into their driveways or garage thingies.
Maybe some of that, like their side, because some of them also park off to the side.
Yes, or off to the side, parking area. This one's easy compared to
They are
this.
very.
No, I don't blame them. It's kind of like a little kind of historic secret little thing. Wasn't that where the cemetery was?
No, that was the, Illinois Host House down there at,
Is that why they have the walk up to it? Is that why the community built this little weird
It's just a little shortcut.
up
Yeah,
Wall Street?
yeah.
Okay.
I thought the cemetery was all like at Fifth in Colorado.
well, it's where the hose house, everything north of that hose house is what Chi told me was the relocated cemetery, where they relocated the graves to the new,
Or the headstone.
well, I don't wanna get it. I don't wanna get it on.
What is our timeline on this, Ed? For Wall Street?
For Wall Street, we were looking at July.
Well, we just met with a contractor today, one we've used, for years here in the city, and very dependable. So we're getting a proposal from that contractor. We'll likely get one or two other proposals if we can for the paving. So what would need to happen, there'll have to be some grading that happens before the paving occurs. So, the paving would probably be a 3-inch lift. So we'd have to go down about 3 inches.
Yeah, because some of them paved and some of them have graded and some of them
Right, so and we'll try to keep the similar grades, but also have the drainage, so it's as best as can be. It's pretty flat up there, but most of it just sheets off the edge of the walls there. We don't want to channel it in anybody's particular yard. And then we're also proposing to pave the 2 avenues from Virginia up 14th and 16th, which is the big hill.
So we are gonna pave 16?
And we did meet with the residents about this. We had a really good turnout. And initially there were a few that weren't so sure about it being paved, particularly the top part. But by the end of the conversation, it seemed like the consensus was it was best for maintenance and for safety. That hill is south facing. So when you have the blacktop, yes, it's gonna be slick and it's steep and there's just no way around that. But the advantage is that it's south facing, and when the sun does come out, hopefully it'll melt and it'll be a little better. Right now, you've got a lot of erosion on that
Oh
hill
my God,
with the
yes.
gravel. It all goes
It's
down there
almost
by
like
the
this
Elks. It's a real maintenance problem and public
But
works.
when the sun doesn't come out, it's gonna be one slope sun.
Understood, but it's slick even the way it is now, yeah. And then on the other end, and Jeremy will appreciate this, we met with Chief Kelly Babian about the other end at 14th and Wall. There's a hard turn there. So the owner of the house on the corner that had those big bushes there actually took those bushes out because they didn't want the bushes anymore. I think they're gonna try to fit a parking space in there. But what's important about it is it improves visibility, and it's also going to improve the turn there. We'll have to work with the other property owner, has some storage out there in the right of way to get some of that cleared out. So the good news is it'll be easier to get a truck around that corner. It's still going to be tight, but around that corner. So that's one of the other goals. Yeah.
Don't be teasing or anything like that.
I don't know how he's gonna get down, but he's gonna get up.
He might have to back up.
Well, there's that cute little walkway in the middle.
So, but we want to get the paving done this year, make some improvements to that road this year. We did meet with the property owners about the draft survey. The feedback we got is some of the property owners did not want the existing flower beds in the right of way. It's okay with us. The main thing we want in the right of way, of course, is the road for maintenance. And then also our
The
utilities.
gas line and the sewer
Right.
and the water.
It wasn't so important for us to have the Excel poles in the right of way because.
They're all overhead and we wouldn't need to dig it.
And that's really not our issue, but it's not.
Yeah,
a big deal.
that's them.
So we have to do some transferring back and forth, because I know some of those property lines go right into the middle.
Yes, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna finalize the survey. We just met with the surveyor this morning, and then we'll have exhibits with each property owner about the right of way we would request from them, and then get their approval on it and then bring it back to council.
Okay.
For final approval.
So the reverse of what's going on the other end of town.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're getting right away and we're giving right away.
Seems like a good trade-off for everybody.
So,
All right, so then Virginia, over there on Virginia Street, it turned out that sidewalk was like 7 feet wide. I'm not sure why
I
that,
measured it, 7.5.
not sure how that even got that way. It was
Nope.
a big curve and there was nowhere to park. So we adjusted that down to 4 and a roll-up curve. What's up there now, if you guys drive by there and see it, it's much nicer and much more friendly to the
And
residents.
once it's paved, we'll be back to being able to park on both sides of the street. Nobody should be adversely affected. It ought to work just the way it always has with the roll-up curb. And 4 foot, by the way, is still ADA compliant, so. I'm glad Marilyn Lundberry called me and said you might want to get up here and take a look at this.
we caught it early on.
Yeah, we
Which was fortunate.
Yes, very, very fortunate.
Right.
Fortunate she's got some history with the city.
Yes.
And we wound up not needing some of the easements that we thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was pretty cool.
Charlie Rosanovich gave us an easement that we needed up by the castle. Of course, he's very civic minded. And then ended up, particularly with these sidewalks now being as wide, that we were not needing one of the easements that we thought we were gonna need. So it made it easier and it cleaned up pretty quick.
Right, and then, Virginia Canyon Road, here's a map of that, it's pretty cool. Is gonna be paid tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, all right.
So, and they've had problems with drainage up there in this, in fast. And we've had to make a few adjustments at these circled areas. Where this asphalt curb was like literally blocking people in their houses. So there was an adjustment here. And the guys up there are confident that they can kind of do a little tweak with how the asphalt curb goes. So the water will kind of be flung out and then caught again. And then,
So I
there,
don't think they're gonna have a standing water issue.
yeah, yes, so they're gonna fix that.
Okay, good.
There's also a lady up here that gets water like right in her house. With the way the old stuff was. And then, we're gonna lower the road and put like a little swell in it. So the water kind of doesn't go. Look at it. right in the
Channels
front door.
down, looks like it channels down a little bit more.
Yeah. Put it like right into her front door. So that was terrible.
You're so cheerful.
Yeah. No, I've been through this before with the road in my own house, in the road. They were having an issue with the curb, the asphalt curb. So usually they would pour the asphalt, or not pour it, but lay the asphalt. And then they'll take this machine and carve out a groove up the side of it, and then build this little asphalt curb in that groove. Well, the grooving machine won't get up to people's houses really close. So they're gonna do tack, the blue thing, tack and epoxy, and maybe drill and put a piece of rebar in those sections. But, I mean, I was fine with it because when we plow, we usually only do like one stripe up, one stripe down, and we don't really get close to the edges anyway. I mean, that would be the thing that would take the asphalt curve out, would be the plow truck. So it should be okay. I'm excited about paving.
Be nice,
Yeah,
slogging through like a foot of stones at this point in time.
right. It is a little bit frustrating being like thrown into it in the middle,
You'll be fine.
but I'm pretty sure I got it figured out. We're taking it as it goes.
All right.
I don't remember them saying they were gonna pave tomorrow.
Yeah.
Until today, and then I called them. Are you sure you're gonna do that? They're doing it. It's happening.
All right.
The other way. But you guys got some cool maps.
Anything further?
No, that's all. Thank you. Well, there wasn't any, there's no other roads. Just
All
three
right.
roads.
Thank you. We can create some new
Yeah.
ones.
Pine Slope got filled in a little bit. That's a road.
Well, that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Pine Slope got
Right.
filled
Oh,
in.
that is.
Wall Street got fixed up a little bit.
All right.
The police station mud bog,
Mm.
I got fixed up a little
Parking
bit.
lot.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Ed.
We are, a couple minutes past, so I'm gonna make this really quick. The last thing that we had was expanding early child care and, learning, contribution. You know, I think all of us realize what a child care desert, our area is. And, for us to get involved and support early, childcare, I think all of us feel not only is it the right thing to do, but it actually makes economic sense because it seriously impacts our workforce. If a mom or dad has to stay home or take social assistance because they're not free to go out and earn their own income, what happens is you end up with lame signs on businesses that say things like, be patient, please, because we're short-staffed. And that's why Jonathan Kane helped out while he was still here. And he took city time to help Mitch Houston secure a grant. I think it was about $50,000. And I think a lot of you were involved with the polling that happened in the community for what do we do with Carlson? And consistently, a number one or number two item that was on everybody's list with our citizens is some type of childcare. So I'm just saying that there probably is going to be a request in the coming meetings for a $5,000 contribution this year, and a request to see if all municipalities will be able to up that to $10,000 in 2026. And it will do things up, just give you an example, like income-based grants, so that those who can pay, can secure a slot. Those who can only pay half because maybe they are in income, but they at least can have some childcare. So I know we're in a work session, so obviously we're not going to take action on this, but I just wanted to get the temperature of the room as far as that goes.
What's the entity that the money goes to? Like, what is the
And
organization?
I don't know what the official name is, but it's a nonprofit.
Early childhood education. My question for you would be,
They have like 3 or 4 classrooms that are going in at Carlson.
Okay.
did they get their grant and are they, like, when are they looking at opening?
They got the grant from HUD. I had to do an environmental assessment of it.
Oh, thank you, Dylan. I did not know that.
So we did an assessment and found that there would not be a significant environmental impact. That was back in the fall. So that went fine. So anyway, that was a requirement in order to get the funding that a entity like the city or the county had to do that assessment. So anyway, he should, if he doesn't have funding already, and that was, I think, the last go
Very good.
Do we know how much the grant is for?
I will look it up during regular meeting and let
So there are two organizations working at least with childcare. One is the Clear Creek Schools Foundation, which is working to get the facility, the space up at the elementary school.
Yes.
So that's through the Clear Creek Schools Foundation. That's Mitch Houston that's heading that up. And then you have a fairly new nonprofit that's been formed, expanding early child care and learning, EECL. And their approach has been to help identify more options, particularly, and one of the options is like encouraging home-based care, childcare, and scholarships, as the mayor mentioned. So that's what their focus has been. But they are working together with the Schools Foundation. The Schools Foundation main focus is the facility, the childcare up at the elementary school.
But it is not the school district, it is a separate.
Correct, it's a foundation.
It's a
Correct.
foundation, and then
Foundation.
there's a separate one.
Yes, I
Okay.
pulled it
Yeah,
up.
there's a separate,
They're the Clear Creek Schools Foundation, and they received a HUD community project funding grant of $1.6 million.
And the problem is there's a match involved with that.
Yeah, and the total project cost is much more than 1.6
yeah,
million,
so that's shortfall.
but anyway, that's what
And Janine, your thoughts, obviously, we need to put a finer point
Yeah, totally. in support.
on this, but is this something that,
I was just curious because the Rotary was talking about maybe wanting to support something like this too, so
Oh,
I
I
was
got
kind of wondering where I should send
I
them.
got
but
you, by the way,
yes.
thank you, I did not have that information, I'm glad that they're looking at that.
One thing, one thing I might mention, this has been the main topic at the last two meetings, monthly meetings of the mayors and commissioners. So it's a hot topic, everybody knows that, but it's to have two meetings just focused on this topic has been huge.
Well, I
And
think we
Kate-
lost our childcare, what, 2 years ago? The last daycare closed down around here?
Oh,
What was that one?
yeah, I mean, there's still a barely tall one on Floyd Hill, and I mean,
That's about it.
I can't, oh, it closed too?
No, I said that's about it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say,
it's always
I
has to wait
can't
list.
think of another one. There might be some home-based, there's not a lot.
No, I don't have a problem, I mean, I don't have a problem with this because we are a desert.
But Kate, I'd like your thoughts, and I'm gonna go to Jeremy online.
Absolutely, educating our kids and getting people to work.
Jeremy, is that something that, you know, obviously we need some finer, information on this, but, just generally speaking, is that something that you would be in favor of?
Well, very much so.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much. And Scott?
What's the ask?
It would be $5,000 this year and 10,000 next year. And they will be asking all municipalities to participate. I mean, obviously, an Empire or a Silver Plume probably would not be.
And the funding goes to them directly? or-
Yes.
Does it go to the school foundation or the nonprofit?
No, I believe this is the $1.6 million Rich Houston.
Yeah,
This is the school
Mitch
foundation.
is the Clear Creek School Foundation.
Yeah, I'm
That's
good.
his,
I'm good.
This, that school foundation has done a pretty good job with scholarships. You know,
This is
helping
for the
kids at the high
match,
school
right?
level.
Yeah.
I've heard this before.
The kid actually.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody. It's 7:09. Let's take 5 for a comfort break, and we'll reconvene about 7:15 for a regular.
He's pretty good.
Because they were like, the last I heard was like, they couldn't get, like, the scholarship wasn't very well. for the last year, and they were back in the day. So we sent them our Rotary list to try to get more kids.
Okay, that's hilarious.
Which I thought was like.
Yeah, so-
Because we were oversubscribed, like, we had too many kids apply to Rotary scholarships.
So hopefully they all went to the Discovery Foundation.
I hope they, yeah, I know our community gave money a lot. And,
Yeah.
we're gonna go, like, I'm talking to Alicia and.
But it would be all in for.
I know that we pop into a different.
So
I
I just. like,
All my volunteer firefighter days, that's what a lot
Done
of.
that too.
Like, a bunch of stakeholders. Which is part of
I'm surviving.
All right, council, you were.
You're gonna be at CML this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try to plan. Are you sitting tonight?
Well, I'm so close, I'm just.
Okay. Well, you can do like a dinner or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in.
Oh, you guys.
$7 million.
Everything's going for you?
Oh, well, thank you.
They're like,
You have a
capital funding, I'm like, no, you took a loan.
And like they have money.
Yeah, that's kind of problematic for me, unfortunately.
There's things like your reserves.
So-
They're paying those reserves, like,
Yeah, yeah, they don't want.
never.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, there's just no way, no. Hi, Nick.
Hey Lisa, how are you doing?
Good, thanks for coming out, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
We always want to.
I know, that's why I say coming up.
Sorry.
So.
I saw first Maria and then Mariah came up.
Fine there.
So I set up a Zoom,
It's been a long 5 days.
but different executive session.
Oh,
It hasn't even been a week.
thank you, okay. Good plan.
Did you have a nice weekend?
Yeah, we went bike riding yesterday. We, my brother has a home down in Sarah, so we rode to Red Rocks. Do you know the name of the restaurant, Red Rock?
Oh, yeah, I had food there. It was pretty good.
So we had lunch, rode back, and it's like nice.
There's a couple of
I
things
got
I wasn't.
outside.
How are you, my friend?
There's like a nice little-
Oh, that's what I think. I had too much time off, so.
Yeah, oh, it's good. Yeah,
I had
a couple of things.
I know, so I'm like, very good.
Yeah, by the way, we went with college, just like a week old.
So they took lunch, turn around.
No, actually, that's what we have at the house here.
And he loved his burger, I like my food, it was really good. It's a good bike ride too.
Yeah.
So, public comment? Board? I can make this one.
The public comment or the board, Hey, man,
Scott, how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good, good to see
Mary, you
you.
got your script? You got your script?
I do, thank you. I was feeling naked. Now I'm drunk as fuck.
That's right. I got it. You will be in trouble.
Sugar. Feels good.
This is all.
I didn't eat.
I didn't eat.
Hi, how are you?
Good, I want
Are you coming to see
to.
us?
Yes, Dylan told me you were
Nice,
going
yeah, yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Oh, he said he might come up. No, I know I. I'm planning on going this year. Tipped over, but it was gonna come.
Yeah, yeah.
You're good, but I'll be there Wednesday through Friday.
Yeah, and what's the position of owner of the line?
Yeah, I'll be there.
I understand. She doesn't want
For those days where everything's out.
Yeah, hey, I know how that goes, man. Yeah, that's.
Power went out or the.
the city can go ahead with.
You know why? Yeah, because Excel came in with things like meters, smart meters in, a couple of weeks ago. And I have an old meter base, so I don't know if the problem was already there or when they put it in, they created it. But either way, if they wouldn't put that smart meter in. it
Even
would've
summer.
had-
Gotcha.
I don't know, they'd probably not gotten to
Was it last summer that you asked her, or was that?
Yeah. Crazy, it's been a year.
I was kind of thinking, when they went that far, they would have us, switch to the new, box that has the cutout.
Yeah.
You know,
Time.
Never
like that.
There's a lot of like places that.
And in fact,
I
I
don't think
got
they can force you to do that.
I got a couple ready to go, I swear. I already bought them. I didn't.
The problem though is you touch the meter, you take
I wanna go
all that
back.
stuff that they even have to bring the whole.
Gotcha.
Okay, the lady inspector, inspection issue.
Yeah, those are
You
good.
touch that, you bring everything.
All right.
I put a low-key Malta.
Okay.
It's still like,
This is
you know,
just
we're kind of like,
Like a
but it's like
block.
small and a little underrated. Everybody's there right now, and I've
They
got
have
quite nice.
access to this.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and there's little. So it might be a good place for now. And they think the house, it has like this like.
No, Dylan makes this.
Not the extra roast, like the whole tropical with all the stone filled.
Yeah.
That's like, that's what it looks like. It's so pretty. Because there's like, like, it's just not jam stuff, but then some other influences like.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Fun. I'm just I like that.
I'm gonna make that flat, so it looks like.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing.
Sticking out.
Brand new ones.
All right, I just want to ensure, Guy, are we good to go online?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so Jeremy's with us?
Like he still is.
Okay.
Video is off.
All right, very good. I would like to welcome everybody to the June 9th, 2025 regular council meeting here for the city of Idaho Springs, and we'll call to order at 7:17. And I'd like to start off with roll call, please.
Janine Mariani.
Here.
Jim Clark. Scott Pennell.
Here.
Kate Collier. Here. Lisa Manifold.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Here.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Here. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We have an agenda before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda for June 9th, 2025.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Lisa. And any discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Does anyone tonight feel they have a conflict of interest?
Yes, Mayor, I do. On item number 13, ordinance second reading. I will recuse myself from the vote for that.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Anyone
I heard
else?
about this last time, I just wanted to,
You know,
no, I don't know if you have a conflict or not, so what is the nature of it?
because it does, I do have a building that falls within this size. I do not have to update the building, but I do have a building that falls within this size. And that is a small efficiency dwelling unit.
Okay, well then I
Yeah,
would,
that's you too.
I would say,
I'm recusing myself also.
neither of you would have to recuse just by nature of ownership, since it's just a blanket legislative change. Just that you would,
Oh,
you know, you have this building, but does that prevent you to act fairly and
This doesn't
impartially?
actually, for me personally, it doesn't affect at all because my efficiency is already updated, but
yeah, this doesn't affect me.
Okay, then, I mean, you're both good to vote.
okay, as long as you're good, I don't want to have any appearance of,
No,
you
you're,
know, anything shady.
as long as it's not making you biased or anything like that, you're good.
All right, thank you. Next up, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes for May 27th, 2025.
Thank you, Janine. And Scott with the second. Thank you. Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have bills before us tonight. And any discussion of the bills? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the bills to 6/9/2025.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Janine, thank you. All right, and since we have no questions on the bills, I will move for a roll call, please.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. And I'd like to start off online. Do we have anyone for public comment online?
I don't think so. If anyone online has public comment, please raise your hand, but I don't see anyone online.
All right. And no one has signed up. Oh, okay. All right, well, thank you then. We'll start off with our resolutions with number 18. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
go ahead, Jean.
I'll move to approve resolution number 8, series 2025. Establishing affordable housing policies in compliance with Proposition 123 and the city's 2023 commitment to the proposition and to increase affordable housing.
All right, thank you. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Kate. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. Moving on to number 19, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution number 19, Series 2025, a resolution repealing Resolution number 10, Series 2025, concerning a change in controlling beneficial ownership of the retail marijuana store and cultivation facility located at 2818 and 2820 Colorado Boulevard.
Thank you, Lisa. And do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Kate. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Chuck Harmon.
Yes. All right, just give me 1 second. We will move to ordinance, first reading, starting with ordinance number 11. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 11, series 2025, an ordinance amending sections 21-15, 21-50, 21-63, 21-106, and 21-127 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code to amend accessory dwelling unit requirements in response to Colorado House Bill 21-4/1152.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second from Lisa. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Chuck Harmon.
Yes. Next up, we will have a hearing, a public hearing, ordinance number 9. This is a public hearing before City and Council of the City of Idaho Springs on ordinance number 9, series 2025. An ordinance amending sections 21-15 and 2150 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code to amend the definition of efficiency dwelling unit and to designate the same as a permitted use in the R3, RM, C1, and C2 zone districts. State law requires a public hearing on ordinances that amend the city's zoning code. The hearing is now declared open at 7:25. And we'll start off with a staff presentation. Dylan, thank you.
Sure, yeah, so, well, council, we talked about this at work session last month, and essentially what this does is not a ton. It doesn't change any land or size requirements or building code requirements or anything like that for these dwelling efficiency units, which is an existing definition in the code. What it seeks to do is open up an easier avenue by which someone could build this by adding it to those zone districts that the mayor mentioned, which already allow multifamily and mixed-use housing as a use. What it also does is clarify in the definition that better in line with building code, which would require a unit like this to have cooking facilities that are kind of permanently in the unit rather than just like a heating facilities, which is not very clear and is not really something that's in building code. The intent of this is really to just start the process of making it easier to sort of build these smaller, potentially more affordable units that if someone wanted to do something that was just this today, would be quite difficult to do. You'd probably have to go through a conditional use process. I think that's the main gist of it, but I know there were some questions when we talked at work session, so.
Yeah, Dylan, thank you. And I know we sure did cover a lot of ground on this. But I would like to open it up to council just in case anyone has any further questions on this.
I feel like we pretty much went through all of this.
All right. Jeremy online, any further questions?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. I would invite public comment on the ordinance and wonder, I've just thinking of, I don't think we had any signatures for any kind of public comment, but.
We haven't.
Okay, just want to double check. All right, then, I will now, declare the, hearing closed at 7:27. And, council, any further, discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I would, move for a motion.
Move to approve ordinance number 9, series 25, and ordinance amending sections 21-15 and 21-50 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code to amend the definition of efficiency dwelling unit and to designate the same as a permitted use in the R3, RM, C1, and C2 zone districts, continued from May 27, 2025, City Council regular meeting.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second from Lisa. And, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Janine Mariani. Yes. Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. All right, next up is City Attorney Nick. Do you have anything for our regular session tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. Andy, thank you, for your report, and, you have no request for action, but I want to touch base and make sure you didn't have anything further to share with us.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. And over with Guy, you have one request for action. And, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agreement for services with Interstate Parking Company of Colorado LLC for managed parking services.
All right, thank you, Scott. And do I have a second? Second from Janine. And any discussion?
How are we gonna get the word out? What's the plan? Up there. To those guys, to the residents.
Well, I would think that, we probably will incorporate, the, city's website. I think Sadie probably will be, very key, especially with business owners.
Sure.
We're going to have a business and community promotion meeting, which is very well attended, on the 16th.
Okay.
And, I am also talking with a current reporter tomorrow.
If you can, if I can get some copies for the library, so that I can hand them out, when is it go into effect?
Well, you know, we had, approved an extension of the interstate's, contract. This new one, I think will go into effect, the first of the month.
Well, as soon as it's signed, I think. Yeah, whenever both parties sign it.
All right,
It'll be just a matter of a couple days, I think.
yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
Anything further? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Janine Mariani. Yes. Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. And Guy, I want to thank you for, all your work on that. And just before we moved on, I want to make sure you didn't have anything further.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Guy.
May I just interject for a moment? I've heard from 4 different residents how much they like the city newsletter. So I think that the newsletter is a good idea. You know, like I said, this was unsolicited and they really like that. So I think this is a great way to start really working towards notifying our residents.
Yeah, Lisa, I couldn't agree with you more. When Kate had just asked me about getting the word out, the first thing that popped into my mind was the city newsletter, but then knowing that we just came out with it, it won't be out for 2 more months.
Yeah.
I was thinking about our business community with promotion board and our city website.
Also some flyers for Kate.
Yeah, I think of the flyers even for the rec center, because you hand them out to people that they see every day that might not come in contact with some of the other media.
But
Yeah.
the newsletter is well received.
And I had mentioned that I will be talking with the current reporter tomorrow. But of course, that's his business if he chooses to run a story on that or not. I respect whatever he decides. But it's kind of bigger news, so he may. And, Dylan, thank you for your report. There was quite a bit of work getting ready for this council meeting today. And I wanted just to check in with you and make sure you didn't have anything further to share.
Well, one thing I had in the report was that I was going to attend Burling's Fest and have a table, and I was surprised with how many people actually wanted to talk to me. I probably talked to 30 people in
Oh my
8
gosh.
hours.
Wow.
And it was about just like, not all comprehensive plan stuff. They were mostly interested in when the mountain park would reopen, but then it allowed me to chat about other stuff. So I thought that was really great.
Yeah, that's
Were
good
the
news.
chickens in attendance with you or no?
The chickens did arrive at the booth in a stroller.
Are you serious?
Janine took them in the baby
Janine took the
carriage.
chickens for a walk.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll stop by go down your street.
Wow, yeah, I'll bring my cats out.
Right.
No, I'm teasing, they don't go
Put them in
outside.
the stroller. It doesn't work.
Lizzie's
Like that.
They did.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Dylan. We all do appreciate
Yes,
that.
thank you.
And it was a very busy weekend, I have to say, the place was packed. Wonder, we have your report, and I have to say, I was thrilled with that report. Our sales were, in my opinion, very unexpectedly up 9.86%, almost a double-digit sales tax increase. I'm open to suggestions. But the only thing that I can think of is that we hired a full-time business and community promotion board person, a full-time marketing person with Sadie. And perhaps it's starting to pay some dividends.
Yeah.
That was pretty incredible. And just wanted to check and see if you had anything further to share with us.
No, just Sunday is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all.
Oh, very good. Thank you. And thank you for the reminder. Now I'll have to go out and give myself a gift. All right, Chief, thank you for your report and wanted to see if you had anything further?
No, not further.
Okay, well, thank you. Public Works is of course combined with Ed and the Water Facilities Department. And Ed, you do have a request for action. And
I hope that's a typo.
no,
Oh, it is.
Holy moly, man.
but do I have a motion?
Oh, geez.
It was a plan typo.
I
We
know,
got
I know.
grants for this.
We know this. has been
No,
going
and
on
I
for a
want you to
long time.
remember you said that because we're gonna talk about typos.
Yeah.
But do I have a, no, it's a fun. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the bid from Eastler Contrition to install a new water tank for Montane in the amount of $2,319,421 from line item 51-72-7320.
Thank you, Lisa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Scott. And any discussion?
Oh my gosh.
Just a reminder that we do have
We did have
a
a
$1
grant.
million
We got a
grant
grant.
from DOLA to help with this cost.
Great.
So the 2 million includes that grant? This is not our contribution on top of that?
Oh, no.
No,
Okay, good. All right.
we have a little more than 50% match on that.
Okay.
yeah.
And we got 3 bids.
We did have, yeah, thank you, Ed. We did
That
have
was
3 bids.
The Dietzler was the lowest bidder, but they were also the guys that did Mad Dam.
Okay,
So I know them and they did really well
Yeah,
up
they
there. So.
I don't know if you
This project
noticed.
should be smooth.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes,
Mayor Chuck Hartman.
Yes. Ed, got your report, another good one. I was a little concerned about your stripping plan.
Stripping plan.
And
Striking.
yeah, under streets.
Well, you know, you gotta have a plan for that.
Under street.
City's going
As much as we like to support you, I think council might be digging in a little deeper on that. Our streets might be a little more exciting, albeit controversial, but
Did I put stripping?
yeah,
Or is it?
it's that pesky spell check that added the extra P, which is the correct spelling for stripping. And I'm sure, at least I'm very confident you meant one P, as in striping. But,
Just say yes then.
correct me if I'm wrong. Lord knows I do these kind of mistakes every day. Life can be humbling. So,
Check before you
Did
go
we
on.
get,
I also would like to give Ed kudos because in the erstwhile Facebook group, there was a discussion about water and Ed was Johnny on the spot to say, here's my name, here's my phone number, here's my email. And I heard from 2 different residents over the weekend that they were like, oh my God, who's this Ed guy? This is really great. So they really appreciated it. He will right there, like, give me a call, let's talk.
Right, well, guess what?
What?
No one called.
but Lisa,
you put yourself.
You put yourself out there, which I appreciate.
this is a very good segue. I think, water, wastewater is a lot of responsibility.
Yep.
And then, you throw our public works department on top of that, which Ed is doing a wonderful job. I've heard nothing but positive feedback.
Both of us heard from the resident that walks the city looking for like issues, and she texted me this morning that the parks are looking fantastic and that she said to say thank you and appreciate you and your staff.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Willie did that.
I was trying to get Willie's attention today, but he wasn't.
But seriously, Ed,
I told Willie.
we really do appreciate all the additional responsibility that's been placed on your shoulders and the way that you've been handling it. So I know I speak for all of us when I give you a huge thank you.
Right, well, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And did you have anything further to share with us?
I think that'll be all. Everyone seems to be getting along well.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Shut up, Kate.
Glad to hear that.
You're quitting.
Oh.
Under mayor and council.
I have something.
Oh, yeah,
happening too.
of course.
Under mayor and council.
Yes.
too. Oh, just a quick update on the housing authority. We conducted interviews for the executive director position. And we're having a special meeting tomorrow with the plan of announcing a finalist. So we should have an executive director, hopefully. Fun.
How many finalists do you have? Can you say?
Can I say? We have one.
Oh. I saw some of those were very impressive. Like,
Yeah.
I read through a lot of the resumes.
Yeah, so the hopes for an executive director soon, and then we also got a local planning and capacity grant to have like a launch facilitator who will be helping with like the strategic plan and visioning, so we have an RFP, a proposal for that we're gonna be reviewing as well, so things are coming off the ground. I also got the Idaho Springs check, thank you. Okay, 2,000, we still don't have a bank account, but we got a check, so
Oh.
good.
Wonderful.
We're making our ways, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Well, thank you, and we had asked you to update us from time to time, so that's excellent news. I had 2 things quickly. First of all, thank you, Jeremy Jones, filling in last meeting. And the other thank you I want to give is to Doyle Disposal. We had the city cleanup day. The generosity that was exhibited was really something to see. He really was underwriting the overwhelming bulk of the cost of the cleanup, and it even went beyond our community to other communities in the county. So that is really refreshing when you see that type of civic minded business. And also we had fire authority folks, and I'm not sure, Jeremy, correct me, but we might have also, did we have other emergency responders there assisting on cleanup day? I know I saw fire authority guys.
I'm not sure about others. Yeah, you had at least one of my crews that was there helping something.
Yeah, and I just want to say that is very commendable. They helped out last year too. Anyways, that's everything I had in the mayor's corner. Did anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up before we move into executive session?
Hey, Jeremy, for your awareness, you're gonna have to log out of this meeting and go into another meeting. You have that link?
No, if you could send it to me again to my personal email, I do have access to that here.
Your personal role?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Mayor,
Yes.
you may also want to just throw on to the end of the motion and to adjourn.
Is it the JT 78, not the track deal?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. I will do that.
Yeah, that's the one.
We just have to make sure we get that time to wonder.
All right, I would like to make the motion that we adjourn to go into executive session under CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses B, with the city attorney and staff to receive legal advice concerning the imposition of city sales and use tax as related to development within the city. And also, we will be adjourning the regular council meeting at the end of the executive session. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?